So you have finally got the new iPhone 16 Pro, and now you are looking for the best camera settings that you can choose to make the best out of your camera that you have got in this amazing phone. I'm going to walk you through each and every setting that is available for you to tweak, and we'll see what are the best options as per my preference. So let's dive straight into the settings app and go to the camera option that is there in your settings. The first option that you see at the top is the camera control. So iPhone 16 Pro and 16s have the new camera control button, which is this one. So that is what this option is about. So you can go into this setting and see what single click and double click does. Also, if I were you, I would leave this untouched because this by default launches the camera app, and that is what I want. So I'll just leave it straight away. The next option is Photographic Styles. I do not use this at all, so I have left this option untouched. But if you are someone who likes some post-processing on your pictures, you can go ahead and choose whatever default photographic style you want. Otherwise, just leave it as is and edit your photos later in an app like Lightroom or Snapseed, etc. The next set of settings is the most important one for videos, I would say. So let's dive into the first option, that is record video. Now here you can choose the various qualities and frames per second for your video. I recommend keeping it to 4K 24 or 4K 30 because that is the most cinematic and gives you the maximum motion blur. Some people believe that 4K 60 is very smooth. Apple also says that the 4K 60 is the smoothest, so you can go 4K 60 as well. But for the most part, I would recommend 4K 24 or 30, but 60 is also an option. Now there's also a 4K 120 FPS option, but I would not recommend it for the normal videos, but slow motion. So we'll talk about it a bit later. But yes, do not go for 120. It will make your video a bit choppy, which you do not want if you're shooting some cinematic films or landscape videos, etc. Scrolling down, we have the PAL format. It's turned off. We don't want it. We are in North America as of now, but if you are in Europe, Africa, or Asia and South American countries, just turn it on. That is what you want. Then we have the enhanced stabilization turned on. Apple has the best stabilization in the mobile industry. If you don't believe me, compare it with Samsung phones. The Samsung S24 Ultra camera is amazing, is almost comparable to this one. I don't see any difference, but the stabilization that Apple has is the best of the class. So that is turned on. Then we have the low light action mode. It is turned off because otherwise it will make your video less stabilized, which we do not want, so we turned it off. Then HDR video. Now my personal preference, I do not like HDR video at all because it's a lot of over processing by Apple. So some people might argue that it looks beautiful, and okay, for some cases it might look beautiful, but if you are using your camera on the iPhone for content creation and you're going to post to social media websites like Instagram, TikTok or YouTube, don't shoot HDR. These platforms do not handle HDR video good at all. So turned off. Then we have the auto FPS. So it's set at 30 and 60. It adjusts the frames per second based upon the lighting and various other conditions. So it's set to auto 30-60. And then the most important thing for video recording is the locking of white balance. So for example, you're shooting indoor in a studio kind of light and it's turned off. So it might adjust depending upon the different temperatures that you are handling. And if I go out and my white balance is not locked, the picture might look a bit different and it's very difficult to edit later on because of the different temperatures. So just lock it in place. Once you have started recording in a particular white balance, it stays the same. So the next option we have is the record SlowMo. Now if you go in, you have the 1080p SD 120, 1080p HD 240, which is extremely slow. And then if you want 4K, you have the new 4K 120 FPS option. I think this is only in the Pro models. So if you do not have a Pro model, you might not have 4K 120. But if you have it and if you have a Pro phone, you can record 4K at 120, and believe me, 120 FPS is super slow-mo. Not like what 240, but 240 is a bit too much for me. So 120 just works and you get the 4K quality. So I've set it to 4K 120 by default. The next option is record cinematic. I don't know if you do. I do not record a lot of cinematic videos, but if you do, it's good to have it set to 4K 24 or 4K 30. 4K 30, best option for you, just leave it as is. Of course, it takes a bit of memory, so carry an external SSD if you have a smaller storage device. Like mine is 256 GB, so I do carry an external SSD with me always to transfer photos and videos. But if you have a bigger storage, I think you're good. The next is recording sound. Now my preference is recording in stereo wherever I am. That's how my editing workflow is, but you can go with mono. And if you want to have a 3D sound experience, make sure you're recording spatial audio. And you also have the new audio mix feature now in the Pro models, so you can go and tweak how your sound is in the video settings itself. The next is the formats. So in the formats, the first option is the high efficiency or most compatible for your pictures. I have set it to high efficiency, and that is by default set to high efficiency. It will give you a lot of detail in your photos and will not compress your photos at all. So you get a lot of flexibility to edit your photos later on. Then we have the photo mode. So of course, set it to 24 MP. That's the maximum you can get. So I've set it 24 MP. But if you're shooting Pro RAW and you want that flexibility to edit your photos later on, make sure your Pro RAW and resolution control is turned on. In the Pro default settings, I have set my pictures to Pro RAW Max so that it gives me the maximum quality at 48 megapixels. But you can also go to 12 MP or another format in HEIF with 48, but I think the Pro RAW Max is the best one if you're editing your pictures later on, so that is what I've gone with. Then the format is lossless, XL lossless and XL lossy. I have set it to lossless because I want no detail to be left out. I want no compression. It is the largest file size, so just make sure you have space. But XL lossy on the other hand is also almost the same. Gives you a bit less detail in a picture, but it is, again, you will not feel the difference. I did not feel the difference. It's just I am a bit finicky about these things, so I have selected lossless. You can go with lossy and you'll be just fine. Going ahead, we have the video options for RAW. So we have Apple ProRes turned on and my encoding is log. So log is a flat profile with no saturation, no contrast, no sharpness. That is what I want. That is what you want if you're doing professional filmmaking or learning to how to do professional filmmaking. HDR is again a no-go, so it's log forever. Going back to the main menu, we have the preserve settings option. Now preserve settings is what camera remembers about your settings. So for these options, I have turned the camera mode on. So if you're shooting a video, when you come back to the camera app after closing it, it will be on video and not switch back to the photo option. So that's for convenience. All of these options are for convenience. So controls menu is off, photographic style I do not use, so it is turned off. Then the depth control is turned on, macro control is turned on. Exposure adjustment is turned off because you might be shooting indoor and then you might be shooting outside. So exposure control should be turned off and should go back to 0 by default so that you don't have overexposed or underexposed pictures and videos. And then we have the night mode turned off by default. I don't want the camera to, stick to the night mode even if I'm shooting in broad daylight. Of course not, so turn it off. Portrait zoom is turned on, action mode is off by default. If I'm shooting cars, racing cars around a track or a horse, I will turn it on myself. The Pro RAW and resolution control is turned off by default because you need the flexibility to take random pictures at times, and then when you are feeling artistic, you turn on Pro RAW Max and then you click pictures, edit them later. Not always Pro RAW, otherwise it will eat up your memory very fast. Apple ProRes, the same thing, turned off by default. I will turn it on when I want to take log videos, otherwise it's all good. And live photo is turned on because I do not like live photos. So I've turned it off once and it will stay off forever because I don't like live photos at all. It takes up space and is of no good quality. The next options on your main settings screen are composition settings. So grid, level, mirror front camera and view outside the frame. So these are very good options for beginners or for someone who loves to follow the rules of photography and filmmaking. So the grid, it gives you a grid on your camera screen so that you can use that to follow the rules of thirds or for other photography theories that you might know more than me. Then the level feature is very useful. You can make sure that your video is straight and you have a perfectly aligned horizon and it's not tilting anywhere, so it saves you a bit of time in post editing because you don't have to rotate or crop the picture as much. Then we have the mirror front camera is turned off. It looks bad if it's turned on. And then view outside the frame is also turned off, because if you have turned it on, you can see a lot of stuff that will not be captured, and then it might confuse you and you might select a center of the picture and it might not be the center of the picture. So you don't want it, so just close it off and you will just see the picture that you're going to capture, and you can just frame your picture accordingly. The next option is for the Fusion camera. I've never touched it. I don't want to touch it. I always capture my photos in 1x 24mm, but if you are someone who wants 28 and 35 by default, please go ahead. I recommend always shooting in 1x 24, the best quality pictures out of this camera sensor, no doubt. Turned on the portraits in photo mode, turned on prioritize faster shooting. Now this option is just intelligent processing so that there is no shutter lag if you are shooting a lot of pictures one after the other. Then we have the lens correction turned on and macro control turned on. So these are all the basic camera settings that you need to change in the settings app. I am also doing a giveaway for an iPhone 16 Pro case by Taurus Official. Almost dropped my phone. By Taurus Official. So if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe and comment down below and follow me on Instagram. I will select a winner randomly from all the people who have done these 3 things. So subscribe, comment and follow me on Instagram, and I am willing to ship the case worldwide, no issues at all. I hope you find this useful. If you did, subscribe, like and hit the bell icon. Maybe comment and tell me if you have some other photography settings that you use and you think will be beneficial for me as well. I would love to read your comments. That's all for today. I will see you next week. Till then, take care and bye-bye.